All right. Hello, everybody. So I am Martha Alter Hines, and I'm here yet again with Chris Skidmore. And we are making this video today partly to talk about an in-person retreat, actually, that we're going to be holding in August 9th and 10th in Santa Barbara, California. So we're going to talk more about that in this video, but we're also going to be talking in this video about the themes that are going to be alive in that retreat, but also just that are really alive in the coming couple of months for all of us, whether or not you're interested in the retreat. And so I think I'm really excited to have this conversation, period. I'm really excited about the retreat, which we'll, again, talk about more, I think, toward the end of the video. But the big theme of the retreat and of this video is Hestia, Cinderella, and Hermes. And yeah, Chris is going to say a lot more about this, but Hestia being also the other name being Vesta, right? And I'll talk in a minute about how powerfully Vesta, the asteroid, is going to be playing into the astrology of August. There's so much there. But Chris, this was really your idea when you realized you're coming to California. You're flying from Bali. Make this clear. You're flying from Bali to California, which is a pretty rare thing. And you said, "Hey, do you want to do something in person together?" And I said, "Sure." And this was the theme that arose once we really felt into it, and it really came through you. So do you want to say more of how that came, why, and what is this for you, and what's alive for you about it in particular?
Well, I mean, one of the one of the great mythic kind of themes that I've been sort of staring at recently is the relationship between Hermes and Hestia. Um, I mean, Hestia, for those that don't know, was the firstborn Olympian, actually. So we think of all of the Olympians, which is like Zeus and Hera and Athena and all these kinds of characters from Greek mythology. The firstborn of them all was Hestia, and I think that's an interesting thing to contemplate, that she doesn't have a whole ton of mythology. She doesn't get up to all these adventures. She doesn't get entangled in anything. In fact, she's chaste. She's virgin goddess. So she doesn't get pulled into any of the drama of existence so much, but she has this really important role, symbolically, of the goddess of the hearth. And we can only imagine in times where the hearth was a very important place. I mean, it's still an important place, but we don't have them anymore. They're keeping the fire lit in the home. It was just so important, and I think that image, keeping the fire lit in the home, is so important. Those words, if we put them together, even speaking the words gives me this deep kind of longing, or a deep feeling of something that's lost, that feels almost irretrievable, but irretrievable on a physical level, because I can't see us kind of all getting a hearth going again. But on a symbolic level, not lost, because nothing archetypal is ever lost. It gets exiled and it gets kind of thrown away or put in the basement, but it can never be extinguished. And the fire at the hearth can never be extinguished either. And so this image, which isn't just an image, it's like a felt thing. I think it's like I can feel the warmth of it, and I can feel the gathering around it, the energy of that. If I put myself near that fire, I feel at home, at ease, and I feel the nature of family, community, village, all sort of getting warmed by this thing, and remaining warmed by it. And now Hermes, his role as the psychopomp, which is the guide of souls, would bring you to the hearth and just drop you off and come back when you're ready to go again. And so this traveler, this god of travelers, his role is to take you there and to bring you back. And I thought that was really beautiful. You know, I've since hearing this relationship between Hermes and Hestia, and their names sort of flow into each other in a way. This relational feel between the two of them, it just feels like a really beautiful thing to honor. And obviously, I will be that traveler coming all the way over to California. I'm actually coming for uh, a a retreat with Michael Mead, which is I'm really excited about, which I think is just going to be beautiful around mentoring and like men's mentoring retreat in the forest, in the redwood forest. So I was like, what would it be like to add another week onto the trip? And we were talking about that and the concept of doing something together in person, because it feels like we've done so many things already in the year that we've known each other online, and all of the different things that we've done, and the current course that we do together, you know, with the soul wisdom and all the things that we're doing. It's like, well, what an opportunity to actually be in the same place and to like go into that and to feel that and to respond to whatever comes up around that. And now it's interesting, it'll be in Leo season, given that it's in August. And I could really feel that that Hestia and the fixed fire of the hearth might just give this whole other side to Leo as an energy form that we have, that people don't talk about and we don't really get into, because Leo, you think, you know, big energy ruled by the sun, fiery, kind of performing, entertaining, warm and open, love, all this kind of thing, you know, and maybe the negative sides being, I guess, like self-centered, or all these things that we think about with Leo. And it's almost like when I put the fixed fire that Leo is, I put that kind of like in Hestia's realm, because that's obviously what she's doing. She's maintaining a fire. It suddenly gave this other side to Leo energy, that because we was talking about how that's Cancerian being in the home, but actually there's something Leo about it too. You know, there's something about the warmth of the soul that is very open, that you can sort of easily kind of relate with, and the interest in you and all this kind of thing that I also see as this side of Leo that's probably largely not discussed so much. I felt like the timing of all of that, and you've got some more time, Martha, when it comes to what Vesta is going to be doing, and what Vesta is the Latin name for Hestia, right? So, and she's an asteroid, and so then you're going to be giving us a little bit more about that component of what she's up to during that season. But even just those kind of fundamental astrological pieces felt really um, deep and soulful and healing, and the sense that we may all have that need at the moment on some level to return back. That might be a deep soulful longing. And you know, I was even thinking about Leo and Aquarius before I hand it over to you here. Leo is that fire in the hearth, and then the lighting of the torch and taking it to another hearth would be the Aquarian component of how to share that fire around through the air, you know, through the air waves. And that also had this beautiful link for me for all these Aquarian times that we're in, whether that's Pluto and Aquarius or the Grand Conjunction in Aquarius, and everything sort of like occurring around Aquarius these days, and all the Aquarian themes that are emerging in the collective, you know, like AI and all the different things. It's like, how do we bring it back to the hearth and then make sure that there's a fire on? And of course, the wind of Aquarius could blow out all those fires if we're not paying attention and careful to keep coming back in. So there is something really soulful about the individual that needs to get involved in that. Um, so yeah, I think that's everything I have to say about it at the moment.
Super beautiful. So yes, so what really struck me, because so what happened is that this idea birthed through you basically, right? And then I went, I bet you there's something going on with Vesta at this time, because that would make sense that you're feeling
Yeah.
called to this for some astrological reason. So I looked, and yes, indeed, Vesta, the asteroid, will be conjunct the sun in August. And
Wow.
yeah. So there's going to be a new moon. I think it's in early August. in Leo, with Vesta getting close to the sun and the moon at that point, not exactly conjunct, but still definitely that new moon in early August in Leo will have a flavor of Vesta energy for sure. But then at the full moon in Aquarius, that is when Vesta will be basically exactly conjunct the sun. So at the time of this retreat, will be right between that new moon and that full moon, where Vesta is in her dance with the sun, conjunct the sun, which is so beautiful. And the other humongous transit of August to me is that the nodes are going to be exactly squaring a stellium, like a big conjunction in Capricorn of Ixion, Pholus, Quaoar, and Ceres. So Pluto and Ceres both went retrograde in May, and Ceres went retrograde at 21 degrees of Capricorn, and she's now moving to meet up with this other little group that is in a long-term conjunction with these three Ixion, Quaoar, and Pholus are all in a long-term conjunction with each other, and Ceres is doing a dance with those three in Capricorn, and they're going to all four be going basically direct around the same time in August as they precisely are squaring the nodes. So something I'm feeling just in that whole dance going on in August, separate from Vesta, but I'll bring in Vesta in a second because it does feel actually really relevant, is it feels like for me, in even leading up to August, but definitely in August, there's this powerful, really deep, powerful energy of us having a chance to release layers of karma with regard to ancestral healing, I feel like, especially with Pholus in there, right? And you know way more about Ixion, the mythology, than I do, I would assume. But for me, there's some elements in there of, bottom line, lots and lots and lots of deep healing possible in this time. And when I think about just that Capricorn group going direct, squaring the nodes, it can feel relatively harsh, like relatively difficult. Like a lot of difficult things could be ready to be released. So then when I realized that Vesta was also going to be so powerfully present, suddenly I went, wow, that's so cool, because you and I both, have backgrounds as psychotherapists, as craniosacral therapists, and as astrologers, right? And so we were both really, really aware of what it takes to have a clear, safe healing container. And what I recognized in myself was, wow, Vesta energy, Hestia energy can be that. So if we're able to go deeply into our inner sovereign being, into our inner hearth, really ground into it, nurture it, get to know that place in us, then we have this lifelong tool, basically, that we can use, that when we're in moments, as life goes through these waves, where we're being held, like we are going to be in August and leading up to August, to release these deep karmic patterns, it is incredibly helpful to think of being held in what I experience Vesta as, also as like a sacred temple where that inner hearth is being housed. You get what I'm saying?
I do, yeah. My attention got really drawn into Ixion. I didn't
Yeah,
realize that he was
I saw
involved. I mean,
that.
Pholus is amazing as well, but and Sarah's, I don't know who.
Quawar. Quawar.
Wow. I don't
Yeah.
know who that is.
No, Quawar is long story very short. Quawar is one of the Kuiper Belt objects who
Yeah.
is named after a a, a god of the Tongva people of the Los Angeles basin. So it's like a
Oh, wow.
indigenous, yeah. And he is I don't know a ton about Quawar, but basically the thing that sticks out for me about him is that he is an androgynous being, deity actually, who sings creation into existence. So it's
Wow.
for me, it's really has to do with that original song of
Mm.
source.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah. And so I was thinking about how Vesta or um Hestia sort of is that symbol of that coming home, and that symbol of really rejoining the fire of the body in a way, the warmth and the heat of the body, and coming back to that heat and that warmth. And then Ixion's name just like really launched out at me when you said it, because it's like, wait a second, because my mind went, yeah, yeah, Ixion, he's in the spiraling, he's in a wheel of fire. He's one of the characters that have been punished in Tartarus. There's a few of them down there. And he's in a wheel spinning around of fire, going round and round and round for all eternity. And then I was
Wow.
like, how did he get there again? And then my mind took me to oh yeah, that's right, because what
Because
happened was that he well, he had his eyes set on Hera for some reason. And so Zeus tricked him and made a cloud of the shape of Hera, just to see if he was really, what's going on. So he makes love to this cloud, basically, or however you want to, whatever other words you want to use for make love to this cloud. Then Zeus is like, ha, see, you did want Hera. So then that's why he gets punished for that. But out of the combination of Ixion and that cloud is actually birthed. The cloud gets pregnant, and the entire race of centaurs are birthed
yeah. Yeah.
from the connection of Ixion
Yeah.
and a cloud in the shape of Hera.
Wow. Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
like, talk about like, so we got the themes of like needing to come back to the fire at the heart of the soul, right? And really return back to something that is real, that you can feel, that it's got the heat to it. And then the opposite energy of being drawn towards a cloud. I mean, how kind of like Age of Aquarius is this? Making love to a cloud. I mean, what an image, which gives birth to this whole race of completely wild, out of control centaurs that are kind of like the opposite energy to like Chiron and the wise centaur. And in that Chiron family, we have Triclo and all these kinds of others who hold the wisdom. Now, Follis is sort of in between those in a way, like he's got a bit of the wild. He's very hermetic, and but also has some wisdom to him too. He comes from that lineage that goes 4 generations back to get to Hermes, including
Yeah.
Pan, and Silenus is in there. So you've got this lineage of musical storytelling kind of bards in a way,
Ooh.
who are also part of the music of things, and he's the one that opens the jar of Dionysian wine, and the smell goes into the forest, and who attacks with the wild centaurs. So we've got this kind of, this kind of madness going on around it all, but it's a beautiful set of images, I think. So yeah, just as you're talking, all of those come up. Obviously, we've got music and musicality within this, and Ceres may be the Earth Mother, Demeter, Det meaning earth, and matter meaning mother, which is also something good to consider, that the word matter, or things that matter or materialize, is the word mother is
Mm.
behind those. So the earth mother is somewhere amongst all of that. And she's, of course, the sister of Hestia. I believe
Mm.
she's the next born along, because I think it goes Hestia, then Demeter, then Hera in the
Mm.
birth order. That's the three females are born first, and then Poseidon, Hades, and then Zeus. So a fascinating set of images. I hope people could follow along with me while I was going in those. I mean, even just the symbol of Ixion spinning around in that circle of fire, like this karmic circle for all eternity, is a pretty good one, even within itself, you know. And how do we anchor all of this down and and return to the real, you know, because we're busy making love to clouds. And I think it's like, how do we come back to what's soulful, what's real, what connects us all, you know, through that great not just humanity, but all of existence that we're all connected to, and how we can get caught in these cloud figures. And, you know, certainly in my psychotherapeutic practice, I can see the spinning that happens, the spinning out that happens when we're not connected to that. And how do we bring people back to the anchoring into their experience? And I think that's what we're really talking about, you know. Part of that is some of the craniosacral rhythm that we both use, of being able to just hold and wait, and then recognizing that the field has its own organizing principle. And if we really trust within that, it comes back. And if more and more of us can sort of like come out of this madness and come back, it's like, oh yeah, okay. Then we can perhaps, you know, maybe go so far as to create a different world, because
Yeah.
it's this musicality, you know. That's what Hermes does too, as well as this character you're talking about that creates the world through the song.
Mhm.
If we lose our song, we lose our song lines, we lose our connection to the earth, and then we lose reality, to be honest. And I
Yes.
think that's where we are as a species. And I think it's high time. It's high
Yes.
time to remember our song.
Yeah, right. And you and I, just in the last 24 hours have been having a conversation where um I sent you this Michael Jackson song, this about basically about the decimation of the earth, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
I don't like to get into politics on videos, so I'm not going to, but I'll just say, like, also in this day that we're recording this, something has gone on politically that's pretty upsetting to me. And so I can see how in the just in the world of the United States over the next few months, it's likely to be very challenging.
Yes.
And yeah, and in this video, this Michael Jackson video that you and I were watching, it's like the world is literally burning. And so that chaos that you're talking about, right? And I think probably most or all of us listening, watching, the two of us and those of you watching, are here on the planet, um, in the moment of this kind of burning or this chaos or whatever it is, to help, to be here to help. And so I think that even this Hestia Vesta presencing and learning to come back to that, to deepen into it, honestly can be a key skill to helping us to navigate this time, you know, in a way that where we actually can regulate ourselves enough to not just spin out and not just lose our minds.
Not just spin out and lose our minds. And that's why I
Yes.
think Ixion really jumped out at me, because he gets caught in the illusion of that cloud, and then due to that creates a race of pretty chaotic creatures. Not that I don't love the Centaurs, but you know,
Hmm.
they do cause a lot of destruction in Greek mythology again and again.
Hmm.
And 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 are responsible for the wounding of Chiron in some ways. So yeah. And then ends up spinning out in circles, like spinning out, looping around in a fiery loop, in a fiery hoop
For
for
eternity or what?
eternity. Yeah, for eternity.
for eternity.
He's still spinning
Great.
now, actually. But then amongst all that, we have Sarah as the Earth Mother showing up in the midst of it all and just going like, hey, guys, you know, like there is actually an Earth Mother here. And she comes from a whole lineage that goes to, you know, like Gaia, Rhea, Demeter, Hera.
Mm,
Um, they're a lineage of Earth Mothers. They really hold it down and they hold stories, they hold wisdom. You know, I was talking with a client the other day and we were talking about how the Grimm brothers didn't write any stories, they collected them, and who should show up to share their stories from the German countryside but women, old women, you know,
wow.
always old women, because it
Mm,
was always the role of old women to be the to hold stories because those stories
mm,
were incredibly important.
mhm,
And so when I hear someone say, oh, the Grimm brothers wrote, it's like, stop it. At
mm,
the very most, the Grimm brothers scribed, they wrote down, but
mhm.
they did not make the stories. They collected the stories. I think it's such an interesting thing to just to say like this is 1812, you know, early 19th century German countryside. And then we think that it's written by, you know, and then
Yeah.
so everything has to have this author. But who's anybody name any of the old women who
Mm,
came, you know, like who brought forward Cinderella? You know, who
mm,
brought forward Snow White or the Handless Maiden or just countless stories, you know, Rumpelstiltskin, all these stories that we know, you know, we know these stories. They're in the modern language, right?
yeah.
Sleeping Beauty, they're all in the modern language, and yet um they're stuck there, you know, they're stuck in their modern form, and to release them back to some wisdom that we've really lost. You know, we haven't lost the wisdom of the old ladies. They're still out there telling their stories, but we've lost the deeper, like we've lost connection to it.
Mm,
Um, and these stories, they'll never be kind of pinned down.
yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, and I can feel in that, you know, again, we're also having a conversation before we were recording about words and how words
Yeah,
can both help and limit and make things complicated. Anyway, yeah,
clumsify. They can clumsify.
clumsy, yeah, there you go. And and what I feel when I feel that old lady in myself, right? That I've been a story carrier or whatever. I think we all have, regardless whoever we are, whatever gender we are, I think that's true about us. And the part of me again that is that I come back to that inner hearth in a sense, like the light of creation that is moving through us all the time. And that's the stories are living a
Yeah.
living fire in a sense. Um, yeah. But speaking of stories and Cinderella and all of it, do you want to now bring in why Cinderella? And you've talked about Hermes, you've talked about Hestia, but the Cinderella part is so cool.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about that?
Yeah. So the Grimm brothers version of Cinderella is a story that I've gone back to many, many times. I've brought it out in different contexts, and it always kind of brings forward something in the people that we tell it with. And why Cinderella? Because in the Grimm version of the story, you know, the reason she's called Cinderella is that she's named, the Ella is just is girl, and Cinder is the cinders or the ashes, or in German it was Aschenputtel, so the ash. Um, which means that where is she? But she's by the hearth. She's cleaning up around the hearth, and that's where her existence happens. At the beginning of the story, she loses her mother as well. So we get that sense of like the death of the mother, which is something we've just been talking about in a sense of the loss of ancient wisdom and story. And then because of the death of that mother, she receives a new mother who already has these two sisters. So we have the two wicked stepsisters and the evil stepmother, that kind of thing. And she spends this time by the ashes, cleaning up dirty, filthy, you know, covered in ash, covered in soot, doing the laundry, doing the cleaning, doing the everything that is kind of like that's who she is. That's who she becomes, and that's who she knows herself as. And she's reminded that that's who she is by that name, Cinderella. Um, and so because of the closeness to the hearth there, but there's a coldness as well going on in her life, and she's kind of everything feels very gray and repetitive and a bit like Ixion going round and round, and there's nothing to do but just go round and round. And then, then this 3-day ball is coming to town, and she recognizes that that's where I need to be. That's where I need to be at the ball. And so she goes through this journey in order to get to the ball, which is like the sun in astrology, and the lunar rhythm is she's just going round and round, but the sun is where she's trying to get to. Um, and interestingly enough, in order to get to that sun place, the golden ball, which could be considered to be, yes, it's a golden ball out there, but it's also the golden ball in here. In order to sort of come back to that place, she needs to go via mother's grave. So she has to take the road of ashes and the road of grief and the road of loss. And then it's at the mother's grave that the birds come and they give her the dresses that help her go to the ball. And when she's at the ball, she's in her full glory of coming back to herself, but it's terrifying, and she runs away and she goes back to the ashes. So I think that we'll be able to work with that sort of the identifying oneself as the one that's really only good for the ashes. A lot of worth comes up around that, the process through grief and loss, and then the knowing deep inside, which is the sun in astrology, I believe, that I'm destined for something else. I'm destined to be there at that ball. And this story, Cinderella, had nothing to do with rags to riches in my mind. It has nothing to do with finding your prince. It's got everything to do with the complexity of being a human being and finding out who I am and who I'm meant to be. And then all these layers on top of that, which are those layers of identity that actually confuse us and get us away from who we're meant to be, but can be very comfortable. Like she's very comfortable within those ashes. So we have a few things that are still around Hestia, in a sense that there's that Leo-ness to the ball. There's that sun orientation, and there's the hearth that she's spending most of the story around. But there's all these sort of components. There's also the hermetic, where she takes the sideways. She can't go straight through the stepmother. She has to take the side window, which we'll get into more as we go more into that story in the when we all get together, we'll get right into the nitty-gritty and the details and all of the images and dream images, because that's what fairy tales ultimately are. They're a collective dreaming, and that dreaming comes through the old wives who hold the tales, old wives' tales. The old ladies who hold this for us. And we've forgotten just how sacred and beautiful that is, and how much we all need it in order to remember who we really are and what our connection is to each other, to nature, to the animals here, to the planet, what our duty is of care to this planet, and how tragically we've all gone into a state of a trance state of forgetting all of that.
Yeah.
And maybe stories like this help us wake up to that just a little bit.
Yeah, and feel held and able to navigate it too.
Yeah.
And connected. We're not in it alone.
Yeah, we're all in the story together, and that's one thing that's really beautiful. And there is an inner hearth available for us to come back to, and I think that's really the key message, that isn't dependent on some external thing.
Yeah.
And that's available, and I think we're going to spend some time sort of like returning to that together, which just feels like a really warm, nourishing, beautiful thing to do. So I'm glad that we're doing it.
Yeah, same. So should we speak a little about the actual structure, the actual experience of the retreat and all of those things? Yeah. And I'll just say, something that's really remarkable about the skill set, I would say you and I bring together. It's like, again, we both have backgrounds as psychotherapists. We both have backgrounds as body workers, craniosacral therapists, and the astrology which is a really unusual combination that we
Yeah.
both happen. Those are like the three main components of my background.
Crazy.
Same as yours. Super
Yeah.
weird. Um, but what's really, really cool in that, that one of the things I love about working together is it's like we're able to hold space of people um in a really beautiful way, but also the space of how we seem to co-create, right? So I just want to name for people that the way that this, even our schedule and our plan for the retreat came about in a way that felt really magical to me. It's like we've been in the astrology course, we've been talking about Gemini and the holding the opposites or the two twins and then allowing the third thing to arise. I feel like when you and I are working together a lot, so often that's what happens, is that it's like we're holding the craniosacral hold in a sense,
Mm.
and then this magical divine third thing births itself, whatever that is, right? And that's how the process of us even coming up with, okay, so yeah, how do we want to structure it? That's how it felt to me, was just the magical divine third thing just showed itself.
Mm.
Um, and and you wrote, so anybody who wants to see this actual schedule, please go to the link, because Chris wrote it in such exquisite. It's so beautiful. It's just like it's like a work of art, just the way you wrote it. Oh my God. Um, and I think we should say a little more about that in 1 second. I also want to say though, for anyone who can't come to California for whatever reason, but you really would love to do a retreat like this, please let us know, because we do have the idea that we could do this online at some point. And anyway, but do you want to say a little about the way we've structured the rhythm of our time? It's going to be a day and a half total. It's the afternoon of August 9th and the whole day of August 10th. Um,
Mm.
and I just love the rhythm of what we have planned. Do you want to say something
Yeah,
about
so we're
that?
going to come together on that. So what is it? August 9th and August 10th?
Yeah.
So August 9th is the Friday and August 10th is the Saturday. So we'll come together on Friday afternoon around 2 p.m. and we'll come immediately into a meditation and a meditative place. And we talked about it of like, I think you coined it as taking inventory.
Mm.
So we know sort of that visceral and embodied space of where we are at the beginning. And that's really just a kind of no judgment, kind of like wherever you are, that's where you are. And it'll be that sort of anchor point to come back to of like, remember, this is where we started and this is the journey that we're going on. And then at the end, we can also tune back into that and go, how are we now? What's going on? What's changed? What's moved? Much like in a craniosacral session, we'll do things like that
Mhm.
to delineate this beginning and the end of the session. Um, once we come into that space, we're going to go into sort of a bit of information in a sense, but story time really,
Mhm.
where we'll go into Hestia, we'll go into the some of the things we've talked about today. We'll explore some Cinderella. So it's really nice, I've found, to work with both fairy tales and myth, because they link in together so well. And then we're going to sort of go into the dreaming of all of that, and then around 6 o'clock we're going to like dine together, eat some of the delicious food that's in that we brought to us, which would be amazing. And then you said that the sunset on the beach there is likely to be the Virgo constellation, or is the Virgo constellation at sunset. So that's going to be pretty special as well. And that kind of like leads us in a sense. And so yeah, then that'll take us through that Friday. And then on the Saturday, um, we talked a lot about like the early morning one starting at 8 a.m. will be the lunar session, where we kind of spend some time with Cinderella by the hearth, uh, cleaning the ashes. We get that part of us, and that'll be something that will likely bring up quite a lot of things, a lot of different things, a lot of things from the body and from the psyche and from the life. And having that come up, then we're going to do what you also called a Chiricolo circle, which is like a body integration process. Half of the circle is going to hold for the other half, with you and I always doing holding, and the half of the circle holding for the others who can just lie and receive for about half an hour. Kind of that craniosacral space where you're just allowing everything to integrate and gently move through. And then it'll go the other way with the other half in the middle, which just sounds remarkably, healing and nourishing to me, where there's just that space for integration. Because if we expect and imagine that these stories will bring up some things, and so we're making some room for that, and especially the lunar part where we're just kind of feeling that like Ixion going round and having the karmic stuff come up. And then we'll just have about a half-hour break, and when we come back, we'll go into the solar session, which is a bit more like what's it like to be at the ball, which can also have its own terrifying component. I mean, Cinderella runs away 3 times, but like arriving into our solar self and exploring what it's like to be that solar self as well as that lunar self we explored in the morning. We'll have lunch after that. We'll come back and do this Hermes session, which is like the sort of traveling in between all the little things that happen in a Cinderella that are happening in between things, and the traveling and the movement, so that we can connect ourselves to both of these selves. Because the solar self and the lunar self are really some pretty essential parts, obviously, to the astrology and to the self, to the soul. We'll have a break after that, and then we'll do a big integration session where we'll do another Chiricolo circle. We'll feel our way through all of that, and we'll have a whole hour after that. Sort of like that's an hour process, the circle. And then we'll have a whole hour after that to really speak to it, speak to the experience, share ourselves, share of what has happened. Really taking that slow time to make our way out. And then we'll have another delicious dinner. All of the food will be provided as part of this course. And we'll have another nourishing, delicious dinner to sort of take it from there and out. And it sounds
Yeah,
like a really good rhythm.
it's exquisite. To be honest, it's so beautiful. Right. And to name that this is in Santa Barbara, California, where I live. And it's paradise. It's literal actual paradise here. Just to make
Yeah.
that very clear is, yeah. So what I imagine us doing on Friday evening, for example, is for anybody who it would be optional, but to go to Santa Barbara's on the beach. It's gorgeous, incredibly exquisite beach here. And the sunsets are just wow. Like I live walking distance to the beach, and I go there most nights and see the sunset, and it's complete magic. I
Mm,
sent you a picture the other day. Total magic.
mm, yeah.
Um
Incredible.
yeah, just incredible place. This place is deeply, deeply sacred and magical to me. And the food, like you said, is going to be, brought in for us so we can just relax and enjoy, and it's local and gluten-free and um yeah, just all locally sourced, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it'll feel really nourishing, and that's the overall feel. This is not meant to be therapy. I wanted to say that this is not meant to be
Yeah.
therapy, even though we both have that background. It's not going to
Yeah.
be hands-on body work. It's going to be but it's the real intention is for the space to be deeply nourishing and healing, um and to, like, we've designed it in a way that where the nervous system hopefully will be held, so that all of our nervous system can really deeply relax, and you come away with a feeling of really having gone deeply inside of yourself, found this inner hearth of what is the inner hearth of me, and explore it in these different ways that Chris was talking about, right? The lunar side, more of that inner tender part of you, the lunar part, and then the solar part, more of that part that maybe goes out and comes back in, and then the Hermes as well, but done in a rhythm with that chair
Mm,
clo holding, so that our nervous systems have time to integrate it, and then again by the end come out of it with a sense of much more deeply knowing that inner hearth, and having the ability to take that as a part of you that's already there, but that you just know much more well, and yeah, can help navigate life in a whole new way. That's my intention with it. Yeah. Great. Anything we've left out, or
I
anything
don't
else?
think so. I think we're very thorough in there. I think we've spoken to everything. Yeah, just that, just the importance in this time when so much is going on in the world. I just think it's important, it's an important time to do what we need to do to come back to ourselves. And I think that's where this is coming from, as an offering, and I hope to see people that are drawn to it, that come along, because we'd really, yeah, I can already feel the richness of it, and the amount of things that are sort of happening within it that are going to be beautiful, coming from so many different angles. With nervous system integration happening throughout, I think that's this quite magical space, and with nourishing food and stories, and yeah, so I just feel like it feels good, it feels complete, as far as our expression of it today.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to reiterate, I mean, this will be the first time I'm doing anything in person, offering anything in person, in 4.5 years.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
so I'm personally really excited. I really want to contact with humans, like
Yeah,
actual real,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
be able to see eye to eye and
Yeah.
physically be present. That feels really, really exciting and nourishing to me. Even offering it feels really like something I want and need. And like we've said, like that you're coming from Bali to California is very unusual.
Very
So
unusual.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so it's an opportunity that, yeah, I'm happy and honored and grateful to whatever is bringing this together, whatever is holding this whole thing, guiding this whole thing.
Mm,
It's feels incredibly divinely guided
mm,
for so many
definitely.
reasons. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So those of you who feel called to join us in person, the link is here. You can obviously contact us with questions. And if you feel like you would love to do this, but it's not feasible to come to California at this moment, let us know that too. And we definitely are on board with potentially doing it online at some point. But the in-person is really special. So
Yeah.
I would highly encourage the in-person version. And yeah, more to come.
More to come, indeed.
Yeah. Awesome. See you all soon.